Hola, hola clase. Hoy hacemos un repaso muy importante. Repasamos el clima, las fechas, la hora y el verbo tener. Primero hablamos sobre el clima o del clima. Okay? So para hablar del clima, usamos expresiones con hace, which comes from el verbo hacer, which is to do or to make. So when you ask the question, ¿qué tiempo hace? You're asking, like, what is the weather doing? So a lot of our responses are going to come out with hace frío, hace calor. It's doing, and then whatever the action that the weather is doing. There are a couple other ones too. There are specific verbs that are like specifically for the action of something like raining. That would be llueve, it rains, or nieva, it snows, right? So there are a couple different ones with that. And then there also are some expressions that will use the word hay, which means there are or there is. So hay una tormenta, there's a storm. Or you could say, hay nubes, there are clouds, right? So, but most of the time you're going to see hace. So, yo digo, tú repites. I'm going to say the words, or some of the words that you'll see on the exam, and I want you to pay attention. You can repeat them in your head or repeat them back to the video. Hace frío. Hace frío. Hace calor. Hace calor. Hace sol. Hace sol. Hace viento. Hace viento. Llueve. Llueve. Nieva. Nieva. Hay nubes. I don't know what these are my clouds. Hay nubes. Muy bien. Ok, ahora hablamos de las fechas. Okay, so para decir la fecha, the date, usamos esta fórmula. Okay, so we're using this formula to talk about the date. First, we talk about el número. Okay, el número de mes. So that's going to be the number first. Okay, so if it's the first of the month, you're going to say el primero. But for the rest of the numbers, you're going to say like el tres is the 3, right? We're not saying el tercero. I guess you could say that, but you're going to say the number first, and then you're going to say de, like of or from, right? So el número de, and then el mes, okay? El mes, that is the month. So my birthday, mi cumpleaños, es el 14 de mayo. 14 de mayo. Okay? Yo digo, hoy es el 4 de julio. 4 de julio. Mañana es el 25 de diciembre. 25 de diciembre. So the number always comes first, then de, like of, and then the month. Also, something to note is that the months in Spanish are never capitalized. It's always a lowercase. Okay, ahora miramos a algunas fechas, and you guys in your head try to think of how you would say it in Spanish before it changes on the screen. Pause if you need time. Ok, ahora hablamos de la hora, okay, el reloj, the clock. So, para una hora usamos es la o a la. And that's just for hour one, okay? There is 1 hour on the clock that we are going to use the singular form of our verbs. So if it is 1 o'clock, we would say es la una. Es la una. Or if we want to say it's at 1 o'clock, we would say a la una. But remember, that's the only time we're going to use the singular. For every other hour on the clock, we are going to say son las. Okay, so son las dos, son las tres, son las cuatro, all the way up to doce, right? Or we might say at that time, and we would say a las. Okay, so we're making sure that we're pluralizing that article. Okay, so again, para la una usamos es la or a la, and for all of the rest of the hours, we're using son las or a las. Perfecto. Okay. Para todas las otras horas usamos son las. So son las 8, right? And now we have to talk about how to get our minutes. And this is where it starts getting complicated because we can do our hours pretty easily. But on our clock, we looked at the analog clock and we split it in half, right? So para los minutos usamos dos formas. Usamos y when we're adding minutes. That's going to be from minute 0 all the way to minute 30. Okay, so we're adding those minutes to our hour. This is where it gets a little tricky because from 31 all the way to 59, we're using menos. Okay, so we're going to say menos a certain amount of minutes from the next hour. And this is where I kind of use our English brain of saying it would be like saying it's hour 5 minus 5 minutes. That would be 4:55, right? And so when we did it in class, we looked at the hour. If I wanted to say it's 8:55, I said it's closer to 9. So we say it's hour 9. And then we minus the amount of minutes to get us back down to 8:55. And I know that that's complicated. And again, the more we practice that, the better that we get, right? So, a ver, de 1 a 29. So minute 1, all the way to 30 or to 29. Usamos y. So we're adding those minutes. Y is and, right? So son las 3:05. 3:05. That would be 3 and 5 minutes, right? We're adding 5 minutes to 3 o'clock. Now, there's a couple vocab words that we need to know as well that will be on the exam. We have cuarto. Cuarto looks a lot like the word cuatro, so we want to be really careful that we are looking at the spelling and not accidentally reading them wrong, right? So, son las 8:15. Y cuarto is like a quarter past the hour. So that would be 8:15, which would be 8:15, right? And then we also say this for like the half hour. Instead of saying 4:30, we're going to say 4:30. Okay, son las 4:30. Y media. Now, when we get to the other side, remember minute 31 all the way to 59, we're using menos to say we're like subtracting the minutes from the next hour. So I might say, son las 9:05. Okay, so this is 9 minus a quarter. That would be 8:45. It's 15 minutes until the next hour. Okay. I could also say son las 6:10. 6:10. It's 6 o'clock minus 10 minutes. That would be 5:50. Okay? So just take your time with those. Don't rush through the time ones. Okay, finally hablamos del verbo tener. Okay, tener is a little bit of a struggle for some of us because, especially now that we've looked at some, like conjugating some verbs, this verb just doesn't make sense to us yet, right? So really it's going to come from a lot of memorization of our chart, and we're going to look at our chart in a moment. But we have a stem changing verb. So now that we've done some conjugations, we know that when we chop off the end of our verb, the AR, ER, IR, we're left with our stem. In the case of tener, you're left with 10, okay? 10. But in the shape of this little mini boot in our table, in the shape of the boot, the 10 turns to tien. So you will see that stem change in some of the conjugations of tener. So in our conjugations of tener, we have yo tengo, and here there's the G. It's a go verb too. So in the yo form, we add a G. So tengo. And then now we're changing our stem. We have tú tienes. Él, ella, usted tiene. Nosotros tenemos. Vosotros tenéis. And then we have ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. So see how all the tien is in that shape of a little boot. Okay, and then algunas, so tener significa to have, all right? So it means to have, but there are lots of frases que usan tener en otras formas. So we use tener in different ways as well in Spanish. So algunas frases usan tener as kind of like ser or estar. Okay, so we use it kind of like to be, but really it's to have. So we could say like yo tengo hambre, I'm hungry, right? It's kind of like saying I have hunger, and obviously in English we wouldn't say it that way. So yo tengo hambre, I'm hungry. Yo tengo sed. Sed is I'm thirsty. Okay, so tengo prisa. Tengo prisa. I'm in a hurry. Tengo cuidado. Tengo cuidado. Tengo éxito. Tengo éxito. Tengo 15 años. O tengo 32 años, right? So this is how you tell your age. Instead of saying I am 14, you would say I have 14 years. Okay? Okay, and then we have like using tener where we're adding things to create a different way of saying something. So to say you have to do something, we have a formula. We have tener plus que. Okay, and you'll see this on your exam. Tener, or whatever form of tener from our table that fits the subject. So yo tengo, tú tienes, él, ella tiene. So tener que, and then you want to use an infinitive verb or un verbo infinitivo. This is a verb that has not been conjugated yet. It still has the AR, ER, IR still attached to it. So you might say like tener que estudiar, okay? Or yo tengo que estudiar. I have to study. Tenemos que estudiar. We have to study. All right? Tienes que hablar español. You have to speak Spanish. And then finally we have tener ganas de. So a form of tener plus ganas de plus un verbo infinitivo. Ganas de is like saying a desire to. So to have a desire to do something, or technically it's like to feel like doing something, right? Tenemos ganas de descansar. We feel like resting. Yo tengo ganas de descansar. I feel like resting. Okay? Let's practice.